Hey, what's up? It's Nakula Das. Thank you so much for pressing play. Today, in this video, I'm going to be reading a chapter from Bhakti Vikas Swami's book, Brahmacarya in Krishna Consciousness. Now, I understand that the guys who are connected with me on this channel, maybe you who are watching right now, aren't practicing Krishna Consciousness. You may not even be practicing any type of spiritual life. You may be practicing a different faith. It's all good. What I really want to do is share some of the essential paragraphs in this book that are going to educate you. This is a universal principles about semen retention. And of course, if you're checking this video out, I know that you're interested in the subject. I promise you the information that I'm about to read to you is absolutely life transformative. So let's get into it. But before we do, I do want to invite you to make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, make sure you get notified. I got 2 new videos coming for you every single week to help you liberate yourself and live an empowered life. Also, make sure you check out the descriptions below because I've always got cool things on the go, free gifts, all that kind of stuff. I've got a free program called Semen Retention 101. All the links are in the description so you can click that and access that information. Let's dive into it. All right, so just a quick little background. Who is Bhakti Vikas Swami? He is a spiritual master, a guru inside the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He is a disciple of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is the founder Acarya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as ISKCON. Acarya means leader by example. Swami Prabhupada came from India to America in the late 60s, early 70s, and preached a lot to the hippie movement. His movement spread all across the world really quickly. In about 11 years, he circled the globe many times, setting up over 108 ashrams, temples, and farm communities, helping people of all walks of life reach spiritual realization. His disciples today have gone on and spread that movement all around the world. I am part of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and continue to study and learn from the gurus inside of ISKCON as well as from Prabhupada himself through his many, many books. This particular verses or paragraphs that I'm going to read to you, again, are by Bhakti Vikas Swami. And I understand that you may not understand everything that we say in this book because it is directed to people who are practicing Brahmachari lifestyle in Krishna consciousness. If you don't know what Brahmachari means, I'll leave a link in the description below. I've got a video called Semen Retention versus Brahmachari. In this channel here, just to make it very clear, I'm not sharing Brahmachari lifestyle as a full lifestyle. We're talking about semen retention because my mission is to help guys of all walks of life. I don't care whether you're atheist, whether you're God conscious, whether you're practicing a different type of faith. That is not the mission of this channel. This channel is to empower you to live your life to the best of your ability. And I do hope that everyone reaches some spiritual realization in their life so that you can truly live a happy life. I have found without spiritual realization, it is very difficult because we're always hankering after some kind of material desires that ultimately disempower us. So let's jump into this book, into this chapter, and that way we can get the knowledge from this chapter. I might give a few side notes to relate it to people of all walks of life. All right. Retention of semen is so essential in progressive human life that is simply outstanding how the whole endeavor of modern civilization is based on discharging it as much as possible. Semen retained in the body goes upwards to nourish the brain, rendering the body robust and the memory and intellect sharp. Determination, optimism, confidence, willpower, fixed intelligence, noble character, photographic memory, and shining good health are all fruits of conserved semen. It is said that the 4 Kumaras were unwilling to adopt materialistic activities because they were highly elevated due to their semens flowing upward. Scientists have analyzed semen to be amazingly rich in hormones, proteins, vitamins, minerals, ions, enzymes, trace elements, and other vital substances. By nature's arrangement, this substance, when mixed with the ovum, is sufficient for the procreation of a new body. By nature's arrangement also, if it is not used for procreation, but is kept within, it nourishes the body and brain in a way impossible for any tonic or dietary aid to emulate. The current craze for vitamin and mineral supplements is an attempt to make up for the self-imposed deficiencies. Most people don't know that they are passing out their very life energy with that essential bodily fluid. If semen is lost, all bodily and sensory functions are weakened. Repeated loss of semen spoils the determination and clear sattvic intelligence necessary for spiritual understanding. However, if semen is retained in the body, there develops what Ayurveda refers to as ojas, a vital fluid that gives strength, luster, enhanced mental abilities, and immunity to diseases, and slows the aging process. Scientists cannot prove or disprove this, but it is observable in the brightness of yogis and the dullness of those who regularly spill their brains out. Retention of semen then is ultimately meant for the evolution of the human being to higher levels of spiritual consciousness. Simply by retaining semen in the body, one develops a tendency towards greatness. One thing that I've noticed by watching some of the other guys on YouTube when it comes to semen retention is that many of the other guys aren't necessarily on a spiritual path. And yet, watching some of their progress, you could see over time how they slowly start to bring in a spiritual message to their videos. Because it is natural that when you are retaining your semen, you are going to evolve. And your brain and your vital organs are going to become nourished, which is naturally going to lead you to deeper realizations. All right, let's get back into Swami's book. On the other hand, those who are addicted to discharging semen become petty and bestially lusty. Disastrous fruits of their promiscuity await them. They will be forced to devolve into lower species of life. Even in this life, excessive seminal loss can lead to physical and mental weakness. As the body ages, vitality and the will to get things done ebb away, and perpetual tiredness sets in. The pills and intoxicants people take to artificially keep them bright and active further add to their physical and mental degeneration. As premature old age sets in, their exhausted bodies cannot resist the dozens of diseases which proceed to ravage every cell in their organism. For such persons, the all too common sensibility comes as a relief. Srila Prabhupada says, the more one enjoys in youth, the more he suffers in old age. And I know many of the guys who are watching this based upon the stats of this channel are under the age of 35. I know there are some people watching this that are over 35. But one thing that we should know as young men, just want to speak to the young men watching this right now, is that as young men, we're full of sex energy. We're full of that vital energy, and our body's constantly producing it. So we think that it'll never run out. We think that we're invincible. But we should look to our elders and see what they have gone through and learn from them. This can save us tremendous amounts of pain. The challenge with young people today is they don't have far enough vision into the future. So they only make decisions based upon what's comfortable today. But remember, as Srila Prabhupada reminds us, the more one enjoys in youth, the more he suffers in old age. If we want to be vital, healthy, vibrant when we're in our 60s, 70s, and 80s, then we must learn how to bring discipline into our life at a younger age. The younger you are and the more you start practicing, your life can only get better and easier with time. This is something I wish I learned at a very young age, because the truth is I started masturbating and ejaculating from a very young age, and never was I introduced to any type of conversation that said, hey, this is not a healthy habit. We're actually taught the opposite. We're taught that masturbation is healthy, that, we can discharge as much as we want. But it is practical for any guy who knows and is being honest that after you discharge, how do you feel? You feel a little bit weak. You feel tired. I know some guys right now that are in their 40s and 50s, and they are completely lethargic. They're completely lazy. They're mentally weak. Why? Because they have been addicted to porn, they have been addicted to masturbation for so long that even when they're with their wives, they cannot seem to get themselves motivated. You do not want that to happen to you. Now, if you're an older gentleman watching this, all good. Just start with where you're at. There's some practical advice no matter where you're at coming up. So let's continue. Srila Prabhupada says, wasting semen is also illicit sex. The faculty to discharge semen is the cause of death. Therefore, yogis and transcendentalists who want to live for greater spans of life voluntarily restrain themselves from discharging semen. The more one can restrain the discharge of semen, the more one can be aloof from the problem of death. There are many yogis living up to 300 or 700 years by this process. And in the Bhagavatam, it is clearly stated that discharging semen is the cause of horrible death. The more one is addicted to sexual enjoyment, the more susceptible he is to a quick death. Therefore, brahmacharis are trained not to squander their semen. They must resist the temporary feeling of gratification that is brought at the cost of their own life energy. Unfortunately, almost all devotees coming to Krishna consciousness never had such training, rather the opposite. And for those who regularly discharge semen, it will be very difficult to stop the downward flow, but we have to try. Srila Prabhupada, everyone should be taught to be very careful not to discharge semen unnecessarily. This is very important for all human beings. Here are a few hints that will help. Now, again, this is written for people specifically in the spiritual order that I belong to, the Krishna Consciousness movement. But regardless, if you are coming to a semen retention channel, if you are watching semen retention videos, it means, whether you realize it or not, that you are looking for something more out of life. You know that there's something within you that is desiring more. And the reality, like myself, most of us were never trained in this type of knowledge or lifestyle. In fact, we were trained the opposite. And most of us simply weren't trained at all. So we took training from the internet, from porn, from our friends, from media. I mean, my training came from rappers who always talk about smoking weed and banging as many girls as they can, right? Never at once was I actually trained until my later years, into my late 20s and now into my 30s, on this type of knowledge. So don't feel like, oh, well, I'm not coming to Krishna consciousness. This is not for me. This is for anybody, any man. All human beings should understand this and take it very seriously. Okay, so here's some advice that both Swami Prabhupada as well as Bhakti Vikas Swami is giving us to help us actually attain the ability to, retain our semen. First and foremost, don't think of women. Lustful thoughts provoke activity in the sexual glands. If we think of sex, we shouldn't be surprised if we suffer a nocturnal discharge. But even a devotee seriously striving for Brahmacarya may nevertheless be tormented by sex dreams. In the waking state, he can control his mind with good intelligence. But in dreams, lower desires deeply ingrained in his subconscious may become manifest. The real cure for this is complete purification of consciousness by devotional service. But as this may take some time, the several physical factors that affect the retention of semen may be taken into consideration. It is important not to excessively raise the internal heat of the body. Ayurveda describes internal heat as a condition of excessive pitta, bile, that is associated with the mode of passion. Experienced as heat in the body generated by a passionate mood or by eating hot ragistic food, such as that with much chili powder. Ayurveda also cautions putting downward pressure on the genitals by packing the stomach with food. All right, quick note here. It's going to address this as we go on. But if you're thinking, geez, I cannot go without thinking of women. Yeah, you and 99.9% of guys out there. Because again, most of us never grew up in a brahmachari lifestyle. we grew up where, sex is essentially, especially in Western society, sex is put in front of us from a very young age. It's in our movies, it's in our magazines. So the reality is, for most of us, is that we have deep subconscious engravings that are going to have us thinking of women, that are going to have us thinking of sexual thoughts. So don't put too much stress if that's, where you're at. Of course, that's fine. What you're going to do over time is you're going to progress. Also, I want to acknowledge that many of you don't want to give up sex at all. You're not in a place where you're like, I want to give up sex. I'm in that place in my life, and I'm just being very frank and honest. So that's why I practice sexual kung fu along with my bhakti practices, my devotional service, or my yogic training. The reason why is because sexual kung fu allows us to engage in sexual activities but still retain our semen. This is something that the Taoist tradition taught. Because the Taoist tradition understood that many men were not going to give up sex life, they taught ways to move the semen upwards and to energetically transmute that. And I've got lots of videos about it, so make sure you subscribe and check out some of those other videos. Diet and eating habits, therefore, are very important. Transcendentalists should eat simply and moderately. By overeating, more energy is taken into the body than it can use, which tends to make it come out in the form of seminal discharge. And an overly filled belly exerts pressure on the genitals, causing a tendency towards seminal discharge. Avoid sleeping with a full belly. A yogi practices not eating at night. The last meal should be taken at least 2 to 3 hours before sleeping. The food should be light and easily digestible. Even hot milk should not be taken immediately before retiring, but about half an hour before. Rich, heavy, fried, spicy, and sweet foods heat the body, so be cautious with them, especially at night. Sour foods, such as sour or acidic fruit and yogurt, and bitter food should be avoided at night, as should sweets, cheese, and thick milk preparations. Milk that has gone even slightly sour should not be taken at night. Some vegetables contain a substance that thins the semen, making it prone to discharge. Worst among them is eggplant. The skin of eggplant is especially bad. Next worst is green chilies. Traditional Sri Vaishnavas exclude chilies, tamarind, and drumsticks, it's a type of vegetable, from their diet because of their sexually stimulating effect. Carrots, drumsticks, and to a lesser extent beetroot heat the semen and therefore make it prone to discharge. However, this effect is not very pronounced, and brahmacharis can take these vegetables in modern quantities. Again, I want to remind you that this is talking to a very specific audience of very high-level spiritual practitioners. The everyday guy is not going to do this. I eat carrots. I eat, eggplant, all these things. I do not I have not had a wet dream, and I can't remember, the last time I've had a wet dream. But again, I take practice, and I'm very much engaged in my practice of sexual kung fu, as well as, Krishna Consciousness or Bhakti Yoga. It is best to sleep no more than 6 hours at night and minimally or not at all during the day. If one cannot rise early, his so-called practice of brahmacharya is simply a false, and late nights are bad for overall health as well as for seminal retention. So best is early to bed and early to rise. One question people ask me all the time is, Nick, how come you are waking up so early? And I was like, there's 2 reasons. One, I retain my semen, which is giving me a ton of energy. And slowly over time, I've learned that the less TV or blue light that is in front of me, the easier it is for me to fall asleep, the better sleep I get, and the less sleep I need. So please take that seriously. At nighttime, we're very much addicted to television and all of these type of, our phones and such. That light causes us to be stimulated. When our mind is stimulated, everybody knows practically they try to go to sleep and their mind begins to wander. The natural way to quiet our mind for most of us right now, I say the natural way, the way that we're doing it is we try to distract ourselves with our phones and such. And then eventually we fall asleep because the body's so tired. But we don't want to get into those states. We want to learn to be able to sleep with ease. And that means less sleep. Less sleep means more time for living life. Remember, you've got 24 hours in a day. Let's imagine you're sleeping 8 hours. That's 1/3 of your day. Calculate that over your life. 1/3 of your life is spent sleeping. The 1/3 of your life is spent sleeping. How would you like to live more life and actually experience more of life? If that's you, then you're definitely going to want to practice semen retention, and you want to get serious about learning how to cultivate your energy in such a way so that you can have more life to live. You know, we're all on borrowed time. We never know when it's going to be over. So me personally, I want to live as much as possible. And I know that when I'm sleeping, I'm not living. So the more that we can cut down our sleep by learning how to take on these practices, the better that we can do for ourselves and the world around us. Some Ayurvedic authorities recommend sleeping on the right side as best for brahmachari. Next best is the left side. Not so good is on the back, and absolutely bad for health and dangerous for seminal discharge is sleeping on the stomach. Sleep with the back more or less straight, not curled up, and with the hands away from the genital area. If you are a light sleeper, try to rest in such a place that you won't be disturbed. Before resting, pass all water out of the bladder. Wash hands and feet with cool water and dry them. Constipation is a major factor behind nocturnal emission. If the bowels are not cleared daily, stool and associated toxins accumulate in the rectum or colon. This increases the pitta or heat in the area and also exerts pressure on the seminal sac, facilitating the exertion of semen. However, straining when passing stool should be avoided, as this also exerts pressure on the seminal sac. Here's some other points as well. Bathing with cool, not very cold water is better than with hot. Or use warm water first to get clean, then finish with cold. That's what I've been doing. Bucket bath is more effective than showering to cool the body. Pouring plenty of cool water over the whole genital area may be done as a daily practice. Rinsing the penis after urination removes uric acid that can agitate the sexual glands. Fasting as completely as possible on Ekadashi is supposed to help. Okay, Ekadashi, for those who don't know, are specific days that are recommended for fasting. So essentially, twice a month, some fasting practices should be taken up to help you with your semen retention practice. There are several Ayurvedic medicines and yoga asanas which are specifically meant to enhance brahmachari. And although Srila Prabhupada never recommended them, that does not necessarily mean that we cannot use them, although they may not work wonders. Tripala, usually taken as Tripala Churna, is a well-known, inexpensive Ayurvedic medicine that is helpful for many conditions and is good for brahmacharya. Licorice, taken regularly, can help prevent seminal discharge. However, it is best to take raw licorice rather than in the form of commercially prepared sweets. Ayurvedic treatment may help if one can find a good doctor and follows his instructions strictly over an extended period of time, but this should not be necessary for most devotees. At least once, when Srila Prabhupada saw a devotee shaking his legs while sitting cross-legged, he stopped him. Such leg shaking is a sign of mental agitation and further agitates the genitals. In a Bhagavatam class in Melbourne, Srila Prabhupada said, "If one can just retain his semen up to age 25, the brain becomes so fertile for spiritual realization." Then, looking around and seeing all the depressed faces, he continued, "But if you just chant Hare Krishna, everything will be all right anyway." I assume that he looked around because Srila Prabhupada was a very highly elevated spiritual master, a complete God-conscious man. So he tend to give it as it is, and this is what needs to happen. And then, he would feel the sympathy because, quite honestly, that's how I felt when I learned of this. I was like, well, I've been, masturbating and discharging my semen my whole life, so pretty much I'm screwed, right? No chance. But actually, through the practice of mantra meditation, through some of the yoga asanas as being, recommended, and Ayurvedic knowledge, one can, still get all the benefits and still reach both material and spiritual goals in this life. I have to take a drink of water.
Moments later.
It's the Kali Yuga. We are all fallen. The Kali Yuga simply means the age of darkness or the age of ignorance and hypocrisy. That's the age that we live in. Unnecessary quarrel and hypocrisy. It's everywhere. You're not going to get away from it. We're all going to live it. So we have to understand that we're all fighting against an energetic current to try to elevate ourselves. Truly, right now, we may think we're advancing because we've advanced so much in technology, but in actuality, you can see practically that we're becoming more and more depressed, more and more disconnected. More and more young people are suffering from loneliness, anxiety, worry, depression, disease. All kinds of things are happening. Now, this has gone on for ages. These things aren't new. But we live under an illusion of advancement because materially we have advanced. But where are we spiritually? Are people happier now? Some will argue yes, no. In my opinion, no. Because the simpler I've made my life, naturally I feel happier because I'm not distracted so much. I recognize that the more I'm distracted by things, generally the more anxious I get, the more desires are filtering through my mind, and then I become confused. And when I become confused, I become frustrated. Frustration and anger are also sex energy that's trapped in the balls essentially and not found in expression. The more that we can simplify our life, I'm not saying technology is bad. We're using technology right now to communicate this message. But the more that we can become simple, then we can use technology. We can use whatever advancements we have made materially to get people back into a spiritual realm. Many devotees have lost semen so many times in their pre-devotional lives that even though they want to, they cannot stop their bodies involuntarily discharging it now. Even serious devotees who are averse to losing semen may nevertheless inadvertently do so, due to external influences on the body and mind, such as residual contamination from pre-devotional life, physical disorders that render the body weak, bodily heat, and subtle contaminations through eating the food of sinful people. There is no cause for excessive lamentation if loss of semen is not a result of a conscientious endeavor for or meditation on sex. Inadvertent discharge of semen may be as accidental as, for instance, the loss of a tooth. Considering that the body is always producing semen, occasional spillage may be taken as natural overflow. Sastra, which means scriptures, gives rituals for physical and mental purification for such an accidental emission. Although for ISKCON brahmacharis, bathing and chanting Hare Krishna is sufficient. In such cases, brahmacharis need not to be blamed for breaking the principles or not practicing them properly. Still, the less it happens, the better. And brahmacharis, besides engaging in directly devotional practices, must try to control seminal loss by whatever methods they can easily adopt. They should be mindful about what, when, how much, and where they eat, their sleeping habits, who they talk and listen to, their posture while sleeping and sitting, and their overall physical health. This they may also take to physical exercises or yoga if it genuinely helps their brahmachari life. This is something, I'm not brahmachari, first of all. I am married, I have a wife, I have a sex life. I'm very open about it because I want to be honest with people. But I have been able to retain my semen through the practices of sexual kung fu. Sexual kung fu is a series of yoga practices, qigong, physical exercise, and breath work that allows me to hold my semen even though I still engage in sex, right? So I'm not practicing brahmachari. I'm not at some high level of spiritual practice. I'm simply a guy from North America who grew up chasing girls and smoking pot and doing everything that this world offers us, but slowly have been able to somewhat progress through these practices. So I just want to give hope for everybody watching this that, again, this is a very high level book. It's for a very high level practitioners. But through these practices, you can elevate yourself and become extremely empowered. Despite all endeavors, if a brahmachari still loses semen, he may feel disgusted, but should know that it is not a disqualification for devotional service. The real qualification of a brahmachari is that he wants to surrender his life to Krishna, or God, and be free of sex life forever. Such determination transcends any material conditions. For God or for Krishna helps those who are sincere. Brahmacharis suffering from nocturnal emissions may take comfort in knowing that they are by no means alone with this problem. Let us all chant Hare Krishna and pray for the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, the Savior of the fallen. The following quote from Srila Prabhupada may be applied to unwanted seminal discharges. A devotee is callous towards incidental occurrences, but he is always alert to execute his duties in Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga. Accidents never deviate him from his duty. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Agayampino nityas tams tishava bharata. He endures all such incidental occurrences because he knows that they come and go and do not affect his duties. In this way, he achieves the highest perfection in yoga practice. So there's a lot of information there. And again, depending where you're at, some of it may resonate with you at this time, some of it may not. I want you to take what makes sense for you and move forward with it. Start with wherever you're at. The fact that you're watching this video already shows that you're making great stride. You're looking to improve yourself. You're looking to become a man of value and to become a man of service in this world. And for that, I want to just say thank you so much. And you know, I wish you all the best. I am no spiritual master, no guru. I am a student, simply trying my best. And I am enthusiastic about sharing this knowledge because it is doing wonders for my life and my own progress. And I wanted to do the same for you. Please check out Bhakti Vikas Swami's books. You can look him up online and his Facebook page. Also, please check out Srila Prabhupada's books as well. You can also find them online. Of course, I have some resources for you at nakuladas.com. You could check out all the links in the description below. Thank you so much. Sending you all my love and well wishings. Namaste. Amen. Hare Krishna.